The red giant star above Velthera was dying faster than anyone had predicted. Commander Zixka stood in the observation deck of the Karani Science Station, watching the massive star pulse with dangerous energy. Each pulse sent deadly radiation toward their planet below. The star's surface was already beginning to collapse, and the scientists agreed they had only 3 cycles left before it would explode and destroy everything. Zixka's forearms trembled as he held the latest reports. The evacuation plans they had worked on for years were useless now. They had planned for 20 cycles, not 3. There were 2.3 million Karani on the planet, and their ships could only carry a few thousand at most. The math was simple and terrifying. "Commander, the Council is ready," said Science Officer Kexrin, her voice barely above a whisper. The young Karani had been working without sleep for days, trying to find a solution that did not exist. The emergency council meeting was short. Every option had been explored. Every calculation had been checked. The Karani civilization was about to end, and they were powerless to stop it. "We have one choice left," Zixka said to the assembled leaders. "We send a distress signal to the galaxy. We ask for help." Elder Vexmore, the oldest Karani present, shook his ancient head. "The galaxy does not care about us. We are too small, too weak. The great empires have their own problems." "And then we die asking," Zixka replied firmly. "I will not let our people face extinction without trying everything," the council voted. The decision was unanimous. Within hours, the most powerful transmitter on Velthera was broadcasting their plea across the galaxy on every known frequency. The message was simple and desperate. "We are the Karani of Velthera. Our star dies in 3 cycles. We have 2.3 million souls and nowhere to go. Please, someone help us." The signal traveled through space at the speed of light, reaching star system after star system. It carried with it the hopes of an entire species. 3 weeks later, and dozens of light-years away, the human exploration vessel Aurora's Dawn was conducting routine surveys near the edge of known space. Captain Jake Martinez was reviewing the day's reports when Communications Officer Lisa Thompson called out from her station. "Captain, I'm getting something strange on the long-range array." "It's not natural." Jake walked over to Lisa's station. The communication officer was young but skilled, and she had good instincts about unusual signals. "What kind of strange?" "It's a repeating transmission, but it's not from any human colony. The language is completely unknown, but the pattern suggests it's artificial. Someone is trying to communicate." Jake felt his pulse quicken. First contact with an alien species was every explorer's dream and nightmare. "Can you determine the source?" "Working on it now, sir. The signal is coming from ... here." Lisa pointed to a star system on the navigation display. "It's about 40 light-years away." Science Officer Ryan Cooper looked up from his own station. "That's the Kepler 438 system. Our long-range scans show it has a red giant star and several planets." "But Captain, that star looks unstable." Jake studied the data. "How unstable?" "Very unstable, sir. It could go supernova at any time. If there's a civilization there, they're in serious trouble." Dr. Amy Foster, the ship's xenobiologist, joined the discussion. "Captain, if this is a distress signal, we might be looking at a species facing extinction." Jake nodded grimly. "Lisa, how long to decode the message?" "I'm running it through the universal translation protocols now, but it might take hours. The language structure is completely different from anything in our databases. Do what you can." "Ryan, I want everything you can tell me about that star." "System, Amy, start preparing for possible first contact protocols." For the next 6 hours, the crew of Aurora's Dawn worked frantically to understand the alien message. Lisa ran the signal through every decoding program they had. Ryan analyzed the astronomical data about the dying star. Amy reviewed every first contact procedure in the book. Finally, Lisa's computer made a breakthrough. The translation was rough, but the meaning was clear. "Captain," Lisa said, her voice shaking slightly, "I've got it. They're calling for help. Their star is dying, and they can't evacuate everyone. They're asking anyone who receives this message to help them." Jake read the translated message on Lisa's screen. The simple words carried enormous weight. An entire species was crying out to the galaxy for salvation. How long has this been broadcasting? Jake asked. According to the signal analysis, about 3 weeks. Captain, this message has been traveling through space for weeks, reaching thousands of star systems. It should have been received by every major civilization in this part of the galaxy. The implications hit Jake like a physical blow. And no. One has responded, no sir. There's been no reply signal, no rescue fleets, nothing. We might be the first to actually decode and understand their message. Dr. Foster stepped forward. Captain, we need to consider the possibility that other species have received this message and chosen not to respond. Why would they ignore a distress call like this? Any number of reasons. Politics, resource constraints, or simply because they don't care about a species they've never met. Jake stared at the message on the screen. Somewhere out there, 2.3 million intelligent beings were facing death, and apparently no one in the galaxy cared enough to help them. Lisa, can we send a reply? Yes, sir, but it will take weeks to reach them. Send this message, Karani of Valthera. This is Captain Jake Martinez of the human vessel Aurora's Dawn. We have received your distress call. Help is coming, then patch me through to Fleet Command immediately. Lisa's fingers flew across her controls. Message sent, Captain. Connecting to Fleet Command now. Jake straightened his uniform and prepared to make a request that would change everything. He was about to ask humanity to risk everything for a species they had never met, in a part of space they barely knew, against odds that seemed impossible, but as he waited for the connection to go through, Jake knew there was no other choice. The Karani had asked the galaxy for help, and humanity was going to answer. The Karani distress signal had been traveling through space for 3 weeks, and it had reached far more civilizations than the dying aliens could have imagined. Across the galaxy, the most powerful empires and advanced species had received the desperate plea for help. Their responses revealed the cold truth about the galactic community. On the crystal homeworld of Zephyros Prime, High Commander Velthara reviewed the alien transmission with barely contained disgust. The Zephyrian Empire controlled over 200 star systems and possessed technology that could move entire planets. They had the power to save the Karani easily. Another weak species begging for help, Velthara said to his council. The Karani offer nothing of value. They have no advanced technology, no strategic resources, no military strength. Why should we waste our time and resources on them? Council member Nexvar nodded in agreement. The natural order of the galaxy is survival of the fittest. If the Karani cannot save themselves, they do not deserve to survive. Send no response, Velthara decided. Let them face their fate alone. In the depths of space, the massive crystalline ships of the Crystalline Collective received the same message. These beings were ancient, their civilization spanning thousands of years. They had seen species rise and fall countless times. Their decision-making process was slow and deliberate, involving complex calculations about cost and benefit. The Collective's primary node, Alpha 7, processed the Karani request for 17 days. The calculations were clear. Rescuing the Karani would cost significant resources and provide no meaningful return. The Collective had no emotional attachment to preservation of life for its own sake. The Karani civilization has existed for only 800 years, Alpha 7 announced to the other nodes. Their contribution to galactic knowledge is minimal. Their extinction will not affect the balance of power in any meaningful way. Proposal, we ignore the transmission, suggested Beta 3. Agreed, came the chorus of crystal voices. The Karani are not our concern. The response from the Void Wardens was even more cruel. These militant creatures had built their empire on conquest and strength. They viewed the Karani's plea as a sign of pathetic weakness. War Chief Grokmash listened to the translated message and burst into harsh laughter. Listen to them beg! They cry like younglings for someone to save them. This is why their species deserves to die. His subordinate, battle leader Thexol, shared his amusement. Should we send a response, War Chief? Yes, Grokmash said with a cruel smile. Tell them that the strong survive and the weak perish. Tell them their tears amuse us. The Void Warden's response was broadcast back to the Karani system. Weaklings of Velthera, your pathetic cries disgust us. You deserve extinction. Do not soil the galaxy with your cowardice. When Commander Zixka received this message, he felt his hope die a little more. Not only was the galaxy ignoring their plea, but some species were actively mocking their suffering. The ethereal communion, beings of pure energy who claimed to be the most enlightened species in the galaxy, received the Karani message during one of their meditation cycles. Their leader, Essence Prime, considered the request for exactly 1 standard hour. The Karani seek to avoid their natural transition, Essence Prime declared. Death is part of the cosmic cycle. To interfere would be to disrupt the natural order of the universe. But they are sentient beings, protested Essence Minor, one of the younger members. All matter is temporary, Essence Prime replied coldly. The Karani's consciousness will join the universal energy field upon their death. This is not tragedy, but transformation. The ethereal communion sent no response, believing their silence was a gift of wisdom. Meanwhile, on distant Earth, Captain Jake Martinez's message had reached Fleet Admiral Kate Sullivan at the Human Space Command. The Admiral was a veteran of humanity's early expansion into space, and she had never faced a decision like this. Admiral, her aide Commander Ben Hayes said, the Karani are 40 light-years away. Even if we sent every ship we have, we could only save a fraction of their population. And we'd be risking human lives for complete strangers. Admiral Sullivan studied the star charts and population reports. The math was brutal. Humanity had only been in space for 300 years. Their fleet was small compared to the galactic powers. They had maybe 50 ships that could make the journey, and most were not equipped for mass evacuation. What do the other species say? She asked. Nothing, Admiral. We've monitored galactic communications for the past week. No one is responding to the Karani distress call. The major empires are ignoring it completely. Admiral Sullivan was quiet for a long moment. She thought about humanity's history, about the times when people had risked everything to save strangers. She thought about the rescue ships that had sailed into storms to save sinking vessels, about the firefighters who ran into burning buildings, about the ordinary people who had stood up to stop genocide. Contact President Hayes, she said finally. This decision is too big for the military alone. Within hours, President John Hayes was addressing an emergency session of the United Nations. The debate was intense but short. Some representatives argued that humanity could not afford to risk lives for an unknown species. Others insisted that the rescue attempt was impossible given their limited resources, but President Hayes had already made up his mind. The Karani asked the galaxy for help, he said. The galaxy said no. But we are not the galaxy. We are humanity, and humanity does not leave people to die when we can help. The vote was close, but the decision was made. Humanity would attempt the impossible. Back on Velthera, Commander Zixka received an unexpected transmission. The message was in Broken Karani, clearly translated by primitive computers, but the meaning was clear. Karani of Velthera. This is Captain Jake Martinez of the human vessel Aurora's Dawn. We have received your distress call. Help is coming. Zixka stared at the message in disbelief. He had never heard of humans before. His computer indicated they were a young species, barely 3 centuries into space travel. They were small, weak, and primitive compared to the galactic empires, but they were coming to help. Elder Vexmore was called to review the human response. What do you know of this species? Zixka asked. Very little, the Elder admitted. They are new to space, technologically inferior to most civilizations. They have no empire, no great fleet, no advanced weapons. Then why are they coming when? No one else will? Vexmore studied the message again. Perhaps, he said slowly, they are the only ones who remember what it means to be good. The human fleet that assembled at Earth's orbital station was not impressive by galactic standards. 53 ships of various sizes and purposes, hastily converted for a rescue mission that most experts believed was impossible. Captain Jake Martinez stood on the bridge of the Aurora's dawn and watched the other vessels take their positions in formation. "This is it," he said to his crew. "This is everything humanity can spare." Communications Officer Lisa Thompson looked up from her station. "Captain, we're getting final confirmations from all ships. The cargo vessels Columbia and Denver have been fitted with life support systems for the Carani. The medical ships are loaded with supplies we hope will work for alien biology." Engineer Carlos Rodriguez had been working without sleep for 3 days, modifying every available ship for the rescue mission. "Captain, I have to be honest. We're flying blind here. We don't know if our life support will work for the Carani. We don't know if our medical supplies will help them or kill them. We're guessing about everything." Dr. Helen Baker, the fleet's chief medical officer, had been studying the limited data they had about Carani biology. The Carani are silicon-based, not carbon-based like us. Their body chemistry is completely different. I've prepared what I think might work, but Carlos is right. We're guessing. Fleet Admiral Tony Clark had taken personal command of the rescue mission. He was a veteran of humanity's conflicts with pirates and raiders, but he had never faced anything like this. "How long to reach the Carani system?" 3 weeks at maximum speed, replied Navigation Officer Pete Wilson. "But Admiral, we're pushing these ships beyond their design limits. Some of them might not make it." "Then we'll transfer their passengers to the ships that do make it," Admiral Clark said firmly. "No one gets left behind." The human fleet began its journey toward the Carani system, traveling faster than any human ships had ever traveled before. Behind them, Earth's population watched and waited, knowing that their species was attempting something that had never been done before. 2 days into the journey, the fleet encountered their first obstacle. A group of sleek, advanced ships appeared on their sensors, surrounding the human fleet. The ships belonged to the Nexus Coalition, a group of species that claimed to be neutral in galactic affairs. "Human vessels, this is Coalition Commander Hexnull," came the transmission. "You are interfering in natural galactic processes. Turn back immediately." Admiral Clark moved to the communication station. "Coalition ships, this is Admiral Tony Clark of the human fleet. We are on a rescue mission. We have no intention of turning back." "Admiral Clark, you do not understand the situation? The Carani's extinction is part of the natural order. Species rise and fall throughout the galaxy. It is not meant to be prevented. According to who?" Admiral Clark asked. "Who decided that 2.3 million innocent people should die just because their star is unstable?" "The galactic community has agreed. That interference in natural disasters is inappropriate. The Carani's fate is sealed." Captain Martinez joined the conversation. "Commander Hexnull, has your coalition ever helped anyone? Have you ever saved a single life?" There was a long pause before the coalition commander responded. "We maintain balance and order." "No," Captain Martinez said. "You maintain nothing. You watch people die and call it natural order? That's not balance. That's cowardice." The coalition ships followed the human fleet for several hours, but they did not attack. Eventually they fell back, apparently unwilling to use force to stop the rescue mission. "Why didn't they stop us?" Lisa asked. "Because they know we're right," Admiral Clark replied. "They just don't have the courage to admit it." On the Carani homeworld, Commander Zixka received regular updates about the approaching human fleet. The news was both encouraging and terrifying. The humans were coming, but they were so few. Their ships were small and primitive compared to the massive vessels of the galactic empires. Elder Vexmore had been studying everything the Carani could find about humanity. "They are a violent species," he reported to the Emergency Council. "They have fought wars among themselves for their entire history, but they also have something unusual." "What is that?" asked Zixka. "They have a concept they call heroism. They regularly risk their lives to save others, even strangers. Their history is full of individuals who died trying to help people they had never met." Science Officer Kexrin looked up from her calculations. "Commander, even if every human ship survives the journey, they can only carry 400,000 of our people. What about the rest?" Zixka had been avoiding this question, but he could no longer ignore it. We will select the youngest and most skilled. The future of our species depends on who we choose to save. The selection process was the most painful thing the Karenni had ever faced. Families were torn apart. Scientists and engineers were given priority, but what about the artists, the teachers, the elderly who had given their lives to their communities? There has to be another way, Kexrin said. Maybe we can modify our own ships, add more life support systems. We've tried everything, Zixka replied sadly. Our ships are too old, too damaged. The humans are our only hope. Meanwhile, the human fleet continued its desperate journey through space. The ships were being pushed beyond their limits, and problems began to appear. The cargo ship Denver developed engine trouble and had to be towed by the military cruiser Boston. The medical ship Atlanta lost its main power system and had to rely on backup generators. We're falling apart, Carlos reported to Admiral Clark. These ships weren't designed for this kind of mission. Can we make it to the Karenni system? Maybe, but we'll be lucky if half our ships are still functional when we arrive. Dr. Baker had been working on another problem. Admiral, I've been thinking about the Karenni biology. If we can't adapt our life support systems to work for them, maybe we can adapt them to work with our systems. What do you mean? Temporary biological modifications. We could use medical nanobots to help them survive in our environment for a few weeks. It's risky, but it might be the only way to save more of them. Admiral Clark considered this. How risky? I don't know. We've never tried anything like this before. But the alternative is leaving most of them to die. As the human fleet approached the halfway point of their journey, they received another transmission. This one was from the Void Wardens, the militant species that had mocked the Karenni's plea for help. Human insects, came the harsh voice of War Chief Grokmash. You fly toward your doom. The Karenni are weak, and you are weaker. You will die with them, and the galaxy will be better for it. Admiral Clark smiled grimly. Let them come. We didn't come this far to be stopped by bullies. The human fleet pressed on, carrying the hopes of two species into the unknown darkness of space. The human fleet arrived at the Karenni system with only 4 days before the star would collapse. Captain Jake Martinez stood on the bridge of Aurora's dawn and watched the dying red giant star pulse with dangerous energy. Each pulse sent deadly radiation toward the planet below. My God, whispered Dr. Amy Foster as she studied the sensor readings. That star could explode at any moment. Admiral Tony Clark's voice came over the communication system from his flagship. All ships, this is Admiral Clark. We have 4 days to save 2.3 million lives. I know the odds are against us, but we didn't come this far to fail now. The Karenni. Homeworld of Velthera appeared on their screens, a blue-green planet that reminded many humans of Earth, but this world was dying. The star's radiation was already killing the plants and poisoning the atmosphere. Commander, Zixka's voice crackled through the communication system. Human fleet, this is Commander Zixka. We cannot believe you have come. No species has ever done something like this for strangers? Commander, this is Admiral Clark. We're here to get your people out, all of them. Admiral, our calculations show your ships can only carry 400,000 of our people. What about the rest? Admiral Clark was quiet for a moment. We'll figure something out, we always do. The evacuation began immediately. Transport Coordinator Dan Murphy took charge of the logistics, working with Karenni officials to organize the massive operation. The first challenge was figuring out how to keep the Karenni alive on human ships. Dr. Patricia Jones and her engineering team worked frantically to modify the life support systems. The Karenni breathe a different mixture of gases, she explained to Captain Martinez. Too much oxygen will poison them, too little, and they'll suffocate. Cultural Liaison Officer Grace Williams had been studying Karenni society to help ease their fears. Captain, many of them are terrified of leaving their homeworld. They've never seen aliens before, and they're scared we might hurt them. Can you blame them? Captain Martinez replied. If aliens showed up at Earth and told us to get on their ships, we'd be scared too. The first groups of Karenni refugees were loaded onto the cargo ship Columbia. The sight of them was shocking to the humans. The Karenni were tall and thin, with 4 arms and skin that looked like polished stone. Their eyes were large and dark, filled with fear and hope. Dr. Helen Baker worked with Karani medical staff to treat the sick and injured. Their biology is so different from ours, she told her team. What heals us might kill them. We have to be extremely careful. Lieutenant Alex Turner led the most dangerous part of the operation. He piloted small shuttles through the star's increasing radiation to reach remote settlements. Each trip was more dangerous than the last as the star became more unstable. Turner to Fleet Command, he reported during one mission. The radiation is getting worse. My ship's shields are down to 30%. Alex, get back to the fleet, Admiral Clark ordered. We can't lose you. Sir, there are still 500 Karani in this settlement. I'm not leaving them. Turner completed the mission, but his shuttle was badly damaged. The hull was cracked and the engines were failing. He barely made it back to the fleet. As the evacuation continued, several alien ships appeared at the edge of the system. The Void Wardens had come to watch what they expected to be humanity's failure and destruction. Human fools, War Chief Grokmash announced over an open channel. You will all die here. The star will kill you and the weakling Karani both. Then why are you here? Admiral Clark replied. If you're so sure we'll fail, why waste your time watching? Grokmash had no answer. For that, the Crystalline Collective had also sent ships to observe. Their cold, mathematical minds were curious about humanity's irrational decision to risk everything for strangers. Query: what do humans gain from this action? Alpha 7 asked during a transmission. We gain the knowledge that we tried to do the right thing, Captain Martinez answered. Clarification: define right thing. Saving innocent lives. Helping people in need. Being the kind of species we want to be. Analysis: this explanation lacks logical foundation. Maybe that's why you're watching instead of helping. The Crystalline Collective ships remained silent after that. On the planet below, the evacuation was becoming more difficult. The star's radiation was damaging the Karani's transportation systems. Many of the landing sites were becoming too dangerous to use. Supply. Officer Mike Johnson worked with Commander Zixka to prioritize the most important people and equipment. We need to save your scientists and engineers, Johnson explained. They'll be needed to rebuild your civilization. But what about our children, our artists, our historians? Zixka asked. They are the soul of our people. We'll save them too, somehow. The Karani had prepared cultural artifacts and genetic samples to preserve their heritage. Commander Zixka personally supervised the loading of their most precious items onto the human ships. These containers hold the history of our people, he explained to Captain Martinez. Our art, our music, our stories. If we must leave our world, at least we can take our culture with us. It won't come to that, Martinez replied. We're going to save your people and find you a new home. As the third day ended, the human fleet had evacuated 800,000 Karani. It was an amazing achievement, but it wasn't enough. There were still 1.5 million people on the planet, and the star was becoming more unstable by the hour. Dr. Baker made a breakthrough with the biological modifications she had been working on. I can use medical nanobots to temporarily change the Karani's body chemistry, she explained to Admiral Clark. It will let them survive in our environment for a few weeks. Is it safe? I don't know. We've never tried anything like this before. But it might be the only way to save more of them. The first test subject was a young Karani scientist named Kexrin. She volunteered despite the risks, knowing that her people's survival might depend on it. I trust you, she told Dr. Baker. Your people have already proven they care about us more than anyone else in the galaxy. The treatment worked. Kexrin could breathe human air and survive in human ships without special equipment. But the process was painful and exhausting. We can modify maybe 200,000 more Karani this way, Dr. Baker reported. But we need time, and we need volunteers. Time was the one thing they didn't have. The star's pulsing was getting stronger, and the radiation was becoming deadly even for the shielded human ships on the fourth day. With only hours left before the star's collapse, The human fleet had saved over 1 million Kareni. It was the largest rescue operation in galactic history, but it still wasn't enough. "We need more time," Admiral Clark said, staring at the sensor readings. "Admiral," came the voice of Science Officer Ryan Cooper, "the star's collapse is accelerating. We have maybe 6 hours before it goes supernova." The race against time was about to become desperate. The red giant star above Velthera was dying faster than anyone had predicted. What should have been hours turned into minutes as the massive star began its final collapse. On the bridge of Aurora's Dawn, Captain Jake Martinez watched the sensors. With growing alarm, "The star's core temperature is spiking," Science Officer Ryan Cooper reported. "Captain, we might have 30 minutes before it goes supernova, not hours." Admiral Tony Clark's voice came over the communication system, tense but determined. "All ships, this is Admiral Clark, we're out of time. Begin emergency evacuation procedures immediately." On the planet below, over 800,000 Karani still waited for rescue. The evacuation sites were in chaos as people realized how little time was left. Commander Zixka tried to maintain order, but panic was spreading. "My people," he announced over the planetary communication system, "the humans are doing everything they can. We must trust them and help however we can." Captain Martinez made a decision that went against every safety protocol. "Lisa, tell Admiral Clark I'm staying behind with the skeleton crew. We're going to get as many people out as possible." Communications Officer Lisa Thompson stared at him. "Captain, that's suicide. The star could explode any minute. Then we better work fast." Admiral Clark received Martinez's message and immediately ordered the main fleet to retreat to a safe distance. "Jake, this is insane. You'll be killed." "Admiral, there are still hundreds of thousands of people down there. We can't leave them." That's an order, Captain. Return to the fleet." "Sorry, Admiral." "I can't hear you. Must be interference from the star." Martinez cut the communication and turned to his crew. "Anyone who wants to leave can take a shuttle back to the fleet. No one will think less of you." Not a single crew member moved. Engineer Carlos Rodriguez spoke for all of them. "Captain, we came here to save people. We're not leaving until the job is done." Dr. Helen Baker had been working frantically to modify more Karani with her nanobots. "Captain, I can treat maybe 50,000 more in the time we have left, but I need help." Young Karani scientist Kexrin stepped forward. "Dr. Baker, let me help. I know my people's biology better than anyone." "Kexrin, this is dangerous. You could be killed." "My people are already going to die if we do nothing. Let me help save them." Lieutenant Alex Turner was making desperate runs between the planet and the ships, his shuttle barely holding together. The radiation from the dying star was so intense that his shields failed completely on his third trip. "Turner to Aurora's Dawn," he called, his voice filled with static. "My shields are gone. The radiation is cooking my ship." "Alex, get back here now," Captain Martinez ordered. "Sir, I've got 200 Karani on board. If I try to reach the fleet, we'll all die from radiation exposure. But if I can reach the cargo ship Denver." Turner pushed his dying shuttle toward the nearest evacuation ship. His hull was cracking and his engines were failing, but he refused to give up. He reached the Denver with seconds to spare, transferring his passengers before his shuttle finally died. On the planet's surface, Lieutenant Colonel Sam Parker led the final evacuation teams. They were loading the last groups of Karani when the star's outer layers began to strip away. "Parker to all ground teams," he called over the radio. "The star is going critical. We have maybe 10 minutes." The evacuation sites were scenes of incredible bravery. Human soldiers and Karani volunteers worked side by side, loading shuttles as fast as possible. No one cared about the danger anymore. They only cared about saving lives. Dr. Baker and Kexrin had set up an emergency medical station in the cargo hold of the Columbia. They were modifying Karani as fast as they could, but the process took precious time. "We can't go any faster," Dr. Baker said, sweat pouring down her face. "Yes, we can," Kexrin replied. She had figured out a way to speed up the process by pre-treating groups of Karani at once. It was more dangerous, but it was their only chance. Commander Zixka refused to leave the planet until every other Carani was safe. He stood at the main evacuation center, helping coordinate the final rescue efforts. "Commander, you need to get on a ship," Captain Martinez called to him over the radio. "Not until my people are safe," Zixka replied. "Your people need you alive. To lead them to their new home. Then make sure there are people left for me to lead." The star's collapse was accelerating beyond all predictions. The outer layers were being blown away, and the core was shrinking rapidly. In minutes, it would reach critical density and explode. Science Officer Cooper watched the readings with horror. "Captain, the star's going supernova right now. We have maybe 5 minutes." On the planet below, Lieutenant Colonel Parker made the hardest decision of his life. "All ground teams, this is Parker. Evacuate immediately. Anyone not on a ship in 3 minutes will be left behind." But the Carani volunteers refused to leave. Led by a group of young scientists, they continued loading people onto the last shuttles, even as the sky began to glow with deadly radiation. "We won't abandon our people," one of them called to Parker. "If you humans can risk your lives for strangers, we can risk ours for family." Captain Martinez's ship was being torn apart by the star's radiation. The hull was cracking and systems were failing throughout the ship, but they kept working. "Carlos, how long can the ship hold together?" Martinez asked. "Maybe 2 minutes." "Captain, the radiation is destroying everything." "Then we better make them count." The final shuttle launched from the planet carrying Commander Zixka and the last group of Carani refugees. But the shuttle was damaged and moving slowly. It wouldn't reach the fleet in time. Captain Martinez made a split-second decision. He flew Aura's Dawn directly toward the struggling shuttle, putting his ship between it and the dying star. "Captain, what are you doing?" Lisa asked, buying them time. Aurora's Dawn's shields absorbed the worst of the radiation, protecting the shuttle, but the ship couldn't take much more punishment. Systems were failing everywhere, and the hull was about to break apart. The shuttle reached the safety of the cargo ship Columbia just as Aurora's Dawn's engines finally died. Captain Martinez and his crew were trapped in the path of the star's final explosion. "Jake, this is Admiral Clark. Get out of there now. Admiral, engines are dead. We're not going anywhere." The star reached critical mass. In the next few seconds, it would explode and destroy everything within millions of kilometers. Captain Martinez looked at his crew, proud of what they had accomplished. "At least we saved them," he said quietly, but then something unexpected happened. The Carani ships that had been thought too damaged to fly suddenly powered up. Led by Commander Zixka, they flew directly toward Aurora's Dawn. "Captain Martinez," Zixka's voice came over the radio, "you saved our people. Now let us save you." The Carani rescue ships surrounded Aurora's Dawn just as the red giant star reached its final moment. Commander Zixka's voice crackled over the radio as his damaged ship extended its tractor beam toward Captain Martinez's crippled vessel. "Hold on, Captain Martinez. We're getting you out of here." The star exploded behind them in a brilliant flash of light and energy. The supernova sent waves of deadly radiation racing outward at incredible speed. The combined human and Carani ships fled together, their engines pushed beyond all limits. "We're not going to make it," Engineer Carlos Rodriguez said as he watched Aurora's Dawn's failing systems, but the Carani ships had formed a protective formation around the human vessel. They absorbed the worst of the radiation with their own shields, protecting their rescuers even as their own ships were damaged. "Why are they doing this?" Communications Officer Lisa Thompson asked. "Because that's what friends do," Captain Martinez replied with a smile. The fleet reached safety just as the shock wave passed. Behind them, the Carani homeworld was gone, consumed by the supernova, but 2.1 million Carani had survived. It was the largest rescue operation in galactic history. Merrill Tony Clark's voice came over the communication system, filled with emotion. "All ships, this is Admiral Clark. Mission accomplished. You did the impossible." The journey back to human space took 3 weeks. During that time, something remarkable happened. The humans and Carani began to work together in ways that surprised everyone. Karani engineers helped repair the damaged human ships using advanced materials that humans had never seen before. Human medics worked with Karani doctors to treat the injured from both species. Young Karani scientist Kexrin spent most of her time working with Dr. Helen Baker, sharing knowledge about biology and medicine. "Your nanobots saved thousands of my people," she told the human doctor, "but we can make them even better." "How?" Dr. Baker asked. "Karani crystal technology can make the nanobots more efficient and less dangerous. We can help each other." The cultural exchange was just as important as the scientific one. Cultural Liaison Officer Grace Williams worked with Karani artists and historians to preserve their culture. The Karani had saved their most precious artifacts, but they needed help adapting to a new way of life. "We are a people without a world," Elder Vexmore said sadly. "How do we remain Karani when Velthora is gone?" "You carry your culture in your hearts and minds," Grace replied. "A people is more than a planet. You're still Karani because you choose to be." When the fleet reached human space, they were met by representatives from Earth and the colonies. President John Hayes had prepared several worlds where the Karani could settle, but Commander Zixka had a different idea. "President Hayes, we are grateful for your offer," the Karani commander said during the welcoming ceremony. "But we don't want to be refugees forever. We want to be partners." "What do you mean?" the president asked. "The Karani have advanced technology that could help humanity. We have material science, energy systems, and medical knowledge that you lack. In return, you have shown us something we had never seen before." "What's that?" "Courage, compassion, the willingness to risk everything for strangers. We want to learn from you." The partnership between humans and Karani began immediately. The first joint colony was established on Kepler 442b, a world the Karani named New Velthora. Human engineers and Karani scientists worked together to build cities that combined the best of both technologies. The results were amazing. Karani crystal technology made human computers faster and more efficient. Human adaptability helped the Karani adjust to their new environment. Within months, New Velthora became one of the most advanced worlds in human space, but the real impact was felt across the galaxy. Commander Zixka addressed the Galactic Council, speaking to the same species that had ignored his people's desperate plea for help. "Members of the Council," he said, his voice carrying across the great chamber, "when my people cried out for help, you remained silent. The mighty Zephyrian Empire, with its thousands of ships, did nothing. The ancient crystalline collective, with its vast knowledge, turned away. The ethereal communion spoke of cosmic balance while we faced extinction." The assembled aliens shifted uncomfortably as Zixka continued. "Only one species answered our call. Humanity, a young race that you dismiss as primitive, risked everything to save strangers they had never met. They have no vast empire, no ancient wisdom, no advanced technology. But they have something you lack. What is that?" asked High Commander Velthera of the Zephyrian Empire. "Honor, compassion, the understanding that intelligence means nothing without kindness." The Galactic Council was silent. Many species began to question their own actions or lack of actions. Some, like the benthic merchants, started to reconsider their isolationist policies. Others remained unchanged. War Chief Grokmash of the Void Wardens sneered at the Karani's words. "Weakness," he muttered. "The humans showed weakness, and you praised them for it." "No," Commander Zixka replied. "They showed strength. It takes no courage to watch others suffer. It takes great courage to help." 6 months after the rescue, Captain Martinez, now promoted to Admiral, received a new distress signal. A species called the Vrex were facing invasion by hostile aliens. Their homeworld was under attack, and they were calling for help. "Admiral," Communications Officer Lisa Thompson reported, "the signal has been broadcasting for 2 weeks. No one in the galaxy has responded," Admiral Martinez smiled. "Then I guess it's time to show them what humanity and our friends can do." This time, the rescue fleet was different. Human ships flew alongside Karani vessels, their crews working together as one. The joint fleet was stronger than either species could manage alone. Other species watched as the human-Karani alliance departed. on another impossible rescue mission. Some began to realize that perhaps they had been wrong about what made a civilization truly advanced. On the bridge of Aurora's dawn, now fully repaired with Caroni crystal technology, Admiral Martinez looked at the stars ahead. Commander Zixka stood beside him, no longer a refugee but a partner and friend. "Ready for another impossible mission?" Martinez asked. "With humans and Caroni working together, nothing is impossible," Zixka replied. As their fleet jumped to faster-than-light speed, other species across the galaxy began to form their own rescue organizations. The benthic merchants created an emergency relief fund. Even some Zephyrian commanders began to question their empire's cold policies. The galaxy was changing, one rescue at a time, and it had all started when humanity heard a cry for help and decided to answer. The universe was becoming a more compassionate place, because one species had chosen to care.